Bonjour et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien en ligne pour la presse, en direct et sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 3 novembre. Je vais commencer, si vous me le permettez, par une déclaration en allemand, que je répéterai ensuite en anglais. Nach dem furchtbaren Anschlag von IS-Terroristen, der gestern Abend in Wien stattgefunden hat, hat die Präsidentin der Kommission, Frau von der Leyen, heute früh mit dem österreichischen Kanzler Sebastian Kurz telefoniert. Sie hat ihm und der österreichischen Bevölkerung ihr tiefstes Mitgefühl und Beileid ausgesprochen. Sie verurteilte diesen verabscheuungswürdigen Anschlag auf das Schärfste. Die europäische Familie steht fest an der Seite von Österreich. Wir werden den Terrorismus gemeinsam entschlossen bekämpfen. In English now. Following the terrible attack by Islamic State terrorists in Vienna yesterday, the President of the European Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, spoke this morning with the Austrian Chancellor, Sebastian Kurz. She offered her deepest condolences to him and to the Austrian people. She condemned this despicable attack in the strongest possible terms. The European family stands firmly by Austria. We will relentlessly fight terrorism together. On behalf of the European Commission, we will now observe a minute of silence for the victims of the recent terrorist attacks in Austria and France. We stand together and more united than ever. We also do not forget the victims of terror elsewhere in the world. Today, our thoughts are particularly with the victims of the despicable attack in Kabul University yesterday. Thank you. Merci. Avant de passer à vos questions, un point sur la vidéoconférence d'aujourd'hui. Le vice-président exécutif Valdis Dombrovskis et le commissaire Paolo Gentiloni représenteront la Commission à la réunion de l'Eurogroupe qui aura lieu par vidéoconférence aujourd'hui. La réunion discutera des perspectives économiques et des défis auxquels sont confrontés la zone euro et l'économie mondiale. Paolo Gentiloni représentera la Commission lors de la conférence de presse qui suivra la réunion. Je vous invite donc à adresser vos questions portant sur l'économie lors de cette conférence de presse. Ceci clôture nos annonces pour aujourd'hui et nous sommes désormais prêts à passer à vos questions. Et je commence avec Oliver Grimm.
Salut, tu m'entends?
Oui, je t'entends. Bonjour, Oliver.
Super.
Oui, je t'entends. Bonjour, Oliver.
Bonjour. Merci pour la question. Peux-tu nous donner des exemples pour des mesures que la Commission considère nécessaires dans cette lutte contre le terrorisme que tu avais évoqué? Peux-tu être un peu plus concrète concernant les outils, les mesures qu'il faut prendre à l'échelle européenne afin de lutter contre un phénomène qui, comme il semble ici, était en fait un phénomène domestique. C'était quelqu'un qui était né en Autriche, qui en fait a fréquenté les écoles autrichiennes. Donc c'était un citoyen autrichien c'est un problème du homegrown terrorism, on pourrait dire. Merci.
Merci Oliver. Je passe la parole à Christian qui remplace Adalbert cette semaine. Christian.
Oui, merci Eric, merci Oliver. Je me permets de te répondre en anglais parce que c'est pas mon area d'expertise là. So I'm happy to give you a couple of elements on what we are doing on European level in the fight against terrorism. Of course, the security of those living in Europe is a key priority for the European Commission. We've taken action to counter terrorism in all its forms. That, of course, includes what you were alluding to in the beginning, radicalization and homegrown terrorism, but also many other elements like reducing terrorists' access to weapons and financing. And we will continue to do so as outlined in the EU Security Union Strategy for 2020 to 2025. To give you a few concrete elements on what is foreseen for the future in the Union Security Strategy for the next years, we will actually present an EU agenda on counterterrorism, which was already announced in the work program for the next year, which also includes measures to strengthen the protection of public spaces and help address radicalization. We will also propose to modernize intra-EU law enforcement cooperation and to further strengthen the mandate of Europol. So Europol can even better support member states in this fight. Let me mention also at this occasion that Europol actually is supporting Austria since yesterday evening, including with deploying staff to Vienna. Maybe a few more elements to be a bit more concrete on what we have done so far. There is, as you might know, the Radicalization Awareness Network, which is a network of over 5,000 practitioners from across Europe, which is developing best practices, equip the practitioners with the right skills and confidence they need to address violent extremism. This work on anti-radicalization continues. There's also legislation in place since some time now to take terrorist content off the web within an hour. In addition to fighting root causes, effective protection of terrorists, including foreign terrorist fighters, is of course essential. So we have introduced EU-wide terrorism legislation to ensure the effective criminalization, for instance, for people who are traveling abroad and are planning to commit a terrorist act. So that's a couple of elements. We can, of course, also with the team follow up in a bit more detail if you need more.
Thank you very much, Christian. Let me add that, as you know, the Commission is going to come forward in the course of December with a Digital Services Act, and this Digital Services Act will include elements on combating radicalization on the internet. Now, let us stay with this issue, and I pass the floor now to Fabio, assuming it is on this issue.
No, I'm sorry, my issue is about MFF.
Okay, Fabio, we will come back to you afterwards, okay? Are there other questions for us on yesterday's events in Vienna and terrorism in general? I see a colleague from the Finnish news agency. I'm sorry, I do not see the name. Good morning.
Yes, hello. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Heta Hassanen, yes, from Finnish news agency. The question of yesterday's attack and also the France terrorist attacks. What is Commission's assessment on the threat level of future terrorist attacks now? Or is Commission going to give some kind of guidance for the member states on this? Or Sorry if this is a stupid question, but I just wanted to ask this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, there are no stupid questions, sometimes answers that are off the mark. I am not sure that we provide assessments of terrorist threat level. I will check with Christian whether he can say something on this.
No, indeed, Eric. I think as Eric says, this is first and foremost a matter for member state security authorities to assess the specific threat level in their member states, in specific regions, like, of course, yesterday in Vienna. But according to my knowledge, there is indeed no such European assessment. But as I said, we are working intensively on this topic and are there to support member states in many ways, and also working on further strengthening our coordination and our response to fight terrorism together.
Christian. So we now leave this issue, and I come back to Fabio, who had a question on the MFF.
Yes, good morning. I'm Fabio Napoli from the Italian press agency Policy Europe. My question is about the yesterday meeting between the President Sassoli, Angela Merkel, and Ursula von der Leyen about the MFF. So I'm wondering if you maybe can tell us how this meeting went, and maybe a landing point had been reached. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio. Well, you obviously saw the tweet which was issued by President von der Leyen yesterday evening, and it sums up the conversation. It is not, the format of this meeting is not a negotiation meeting, okay? It is a meeting which is there to enable the leaders of the European Parliament, the European Commission, and the rotating presidency of the Council to take stock of negotiations and exchange information, but it is in no way a negotiation meeting as such, and therefore it is not the objective of this meeting to identify a landing zone. That is for the negotiators on the file to do. Are there other questions for us today on the issue of the MFF or the budget negotiations in general? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this. John Rega, I see you have your hand raised. If it is on this, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to retract my hand until the end of this.
Thank you.
Sorry.
David.
Oui, bonjour Eric, David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Les principaux groupes au Parlement européen ont trouvé un accord sur la réglementation de la Recovery and Resilience Facility et ils proposent d'augmenter le préfinancement de 10 à 20%. La position du Parlement va être adoptée la semaine prochaine officiellement, mais je voulais savoir si la Commission serait favorable à cette modification, à sa proposition. Merci.
Merci David, mais comme tu peux bien le comprendre, je pense, la Commission n'a absolument pas l'intention de commenter sur les positions des uns et des autres pendant cette négociation. Il est évident de toute manière que le résultat d'une négociation se juge sur base de l'ensemble des éléments et pas sur base d'un seul élément. Donc pour l'instant, nous laissons les négociateurs faire leur travail, qui est très, très ambitieux et très difficile. Et bien entendu, la Commission suit ces négociations et prendra position le moment venu, comme elle a l'habitude de le faire en fin de négociation. Je vois que tu as toujours ta main levée. Question de suivi ?
Oui, parce que normalement, si je me rappelle bien de mes études de droit européen, la Commission participe au trilogue et elle joue un rôle de médiateur entre les institutions, vu que c'est votre proposition et c'est un changement important à votre proposition de la réglementation sur la Recovery and Resilience Facility. Je me demande pourquoi vous ne pouvez pas vous exprimer. Si dans la salle du trilogue, je veux dire, il y a eu des parlementaires européens qui ont accusé la Commission de se taire pendant les trilogues. Je laisse à eux les commentaires, etc. Mais bon, tu nous dis, vous suivez, est-ce que vous participez à ces négociations?
Tu as fait des études de droit européen, donc tu sais très bien qu'effectivement, dans un trilogue, tu as deux parties qui négocient, le Conseil et le Parlement européen. La Commission participe au trilogue, donne son avis sur les questions, mais ensuite il y a à la Commission tout un processus de prise de position par rapport aux différents amendements qui auront été présentés et à la proposition finale qui sera faite. Mais un autre principe qui est clair, c'est que nous ne commentons jamais des discussions qui sont en cours en public, car effectivement, si nous souhaitons que notre rôle dans ce trilogue soit reconnu, accepté et efficace, il est important que nous gardions en quelque sorte un certain niveau de réserve pendant que les discussions sont en cours. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui sur les dimensions budgétaires? Je ne vois plus de main levée et donc je reviens à John qui avait levé la main. John Rega. John, press speak so that we can hear you.
Okay, there we go. Finally, very
Yes.
slow on the button today, sorry. Would like to ask for an initial reaction to the report today from the European Securities and Markets Authority. So ESMA found that there were deficiencies in Germany's supervision of Wirecard. And so I know the Commission had asked for this review and has an observer on the ESMA board. So I'd like to ask any initial reactions, any thoughts about possible breach of union law procedure, and also just how confident are you in German regulation?
Thank you, John. This is a question for Dan.
Thanks, Eric. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Very good. Hi, John. Thanks very much for your question. So indeed, ESMA did today publish a report on the handling by the German supervisors of the Wirecard case. This follows, as you rightly pointed out, a request made by us here in the Commission back in June. First of all, we would like to thank ESMA for its work on this. Now, of course, we will have to assess the report thoroughly. As a general starting point, the report is a useful step in understanding the circumstances that led to Wirecard's failure. As you would have seen as well, ESMA focused on whether EU guidelines on the enforcement of financial information published by listed companies was complied with. On a general note, though, I would say that strong regulation and supervision are key to preserving trust in finance, whether for traditional or new players in the market. We must recall that under EU legislation, the role of national competent authorities in overseeing the activities of market players and business companies is very clear. It's for those authorities to carry out the daily supervision of listed companies. So, of course, we will assess now thoroughly the implications of this report and, of course, of the Wirecard case for the regulation and supervision of EU capital markets and act to improve the EU's regulatory framework where necessary. So that's what I'd have to say on the report, at least initially today.
John, I believe you have a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. Very, very brief follow-up. Just are you in touch with Berlin at all about what they're proposing for their own kind of reform of supervision? Thanks.
Hi, John. Of course, as you know, there are ongoing investigations in Germany that are separate to this. I'm not aware of any specific contacts, but I will double check, of course.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Dan today on the issue of this report? Please only keep your hand raised if it concerns this. Christian, je vois que tu as gardé la main levée, donc sur ce sujet, je suppose.
Non, mais sur un autre sujet de Dan, donc je peux attendre, mais tant qu'il est en ligne.
Je ne vois pas d'autres mains levées sur ce sujet, donc si c'est pour Dan, je t'en prie, vas-y.
Oui, je voudrais faire un petit point sur les négociations avec Londres. Je voudrais savoir comment se déroulent les négociations puisqu'elles se poursuivent à cause du confinement qui a été décrété un peu partout. Donc, est-ce qu'on a des négociations en physique ou est-ce qu'on a des négociations en visioconférence? Et deuxième petite question, je voudrais savoir si la situation a évolué dans les négociations. La semaine dernière, Madame von der Leyen comme Monsieur Barnier ont dit tous les deux qu'il restait beaucoup de travail à faire, notamment sur les deux gros sujets que sont le level playing field et la pêche. Est-ce que ça a évolué depuis? Et ma troisième petite question, j'ai lu quelque part que Monsieur Barnier allait informer les États membres au niveau du Coreper mercredi. Je voudrais savoir si c'est confirmé. Merci.
Merci Christian. Donc, question effectivement pour Dan.
Bonjour Christian, merci pour tes questions. D'abord, oui, les négociations continuent ici cette semaine à Bruxelles. Ce sont des négociations intensives et on travaille pour un accord, mais nous n'y sommes pas encore. Beaucoup de travail reste à faire devant nous. Évidemment, je ne peux pas entrer dans les détails des négociations elles-mêmes, mais ces négociations continuent sur tous les sujets. Sur les négociations, comment les négociations se déroulent ici à Bruxelles, évidemment, on respecte toutes les règles nationales vis-à-vis Covid. Donc, ces négociations continuent dans leur respect. Oui, tu as raison, Michel Barnier informera les États membres et le Parlement européen cette semaine, mais pour l'instant, je ne peux pas confirmer exactement quand ces réunions auront lieu. Et voilà, je pense que j'ai répondu à toutes tes questions.
Merci beaucoup, Dan. Are there other questions for us today on the EU-UK negotiations? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this issue. Christian, pardon, je vois que tu as encore la main levée, donc une question de suivi peut-être.
Oui, je voulais savoir si M. Frost était à Bruxelles, alors dans ce cas-là, ou si ça se passe en visioconférence. C'est juste un point de détail, merci.
Oui, les négociations continuent ici physiquement à Bruxelles.
Merci, Dan. So, other questions on these negotiations? I see quite a few hands raised. I assume on this. Joe, you have the floor.
Lovely. Let me change my thingy. Thank you, Eric. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. Lovely. Thank you. It is also for Dan, but on the joint committee. So the President sent a letter last month to the UK asking for a response about what it plans to do with the Internal Markets Bill in kind of reaction to the offending clauses about the Irish protocol, Northern Irish Protocol. And the UK hasn't sent a response back in the 1 month the Commission gave it. So could you just talk us through the next steps in this process, please? Will you be giving the UK more time, or have they given you reassurances about what they plan to do, maybe just not in letter format, maybe through the Joint Committee or via kind of email or phone call or as such, please? Thank you.
Dan.
Hi, Joe. Indeed, yes, we sent a letter of formal notice on the 1st of October to the UK for breaching its obligations under the withdrawal agreement. As you know, it had until the end of the month to submit its observations to that letter. To date, I can confirm that the EU has received no reply from the UK. Therefore, we are considering next steps, including issuing a reasoned opinion. More generally, I would recall that the EU is fully committed to achieving full, timely and effective implementation of the withdrawal agreement within the remaining time available. That's why we started the infringement procedure on the 1st of October. This dispute will have to be resolved. So that's where I'd leave it. We're considering next steps, including issuing a reasoned opinion.
Thank you, Dan. Joe, you have a follow-up.
Yes, just a quick one, thank you. What happens on the border if this issue isn't resolved by the time the transition period ends? Because obviously it causes problems for the internal market in as such, it essentially creates a kind of a breach of the internal market. So will the EU be looking to put kind of not border infrastructure as such, but extra measures in? Have you done any kind of contingency planning just in case the protocol isn't implemented properly by the UK?
Thank you. Dan?
Hi, Joe. I really don't think this would be something that you would want me to speculate on. This is a hypothetical question, of course. You know that we are fully dedicated to the full implementation of the withdrawal agreement. That is an agreement that we reached with the UK in order to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland, in order to protect peace and stability on the island of Ireland. That agreement now needs to be fully implemented, and it needs to be implemented and ready to go on the 1st of January. We are working hard on that, and specifically related to the infringement, you know what our position is. We will be expecting a response from the UK, and in the meantime, we will be considering our next steps.
Thank you. I see that Hans has his hand raised, so I assume it is on the negotiations or the withdrawal agreement. Hans, you have the floor.
Yes, indeed, Eric. Dan, just a quick one on reports that there is progress on fish, saying that some sort of potential solution which would allow the UK to at least, claim that it has regained control over its waters. Do you have a reaction to this from your side? Thank you.
Dan.
Hi, Hans. You won't be surprised to hear that I don't have any comments to make on press reports. You know that's the established practice. I would just recall, generally speaking, what's going on. As I said in reply to an earlier question, negotiations are continuing on all different subjects, on all the different topics. We have not yet found a solution on fisheries. As I'm sure you know, at this stage, we are working for a stable, sustainable and long-term agreement on fisheries, enabling the UK to further develop its fishing activities while ensuring the sustainable use of resources and protecting the fishing opportunities of European fishermen and women. I can, of course, refer you back to the number of statements that Michel Barnier has made in the past, where he said that the principle of zonal attachment cannot be the basis for the solution. This position has not changed. Our position remains the same on this. But beyond those general statements, I wouldn't have anything else specific to say.
Thank you. It's a very fishy business reporting on the UK negotiations while they are still ongoing, so beware. Right, let's stick to the issue. If there are other questions, Naomi, you have raised your hand. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Just to be absolutely clear, is David Frost in Brussels for negotiations? Thank you.
I believe that Dan has answered that question in unequivocal terms, and the answer was yes. Nick. Nick, you have the floor on this.
Yep.
If it's,
thanks, Eric. Hi, Dan. Just a really quick one. I know these talks are obviously in a different phase, but we haven't heard from Mr. Barnier for quite a while. So I just wondered if there are any plans for any press events with him over the next couple of weeks, sort of before mid-November, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I think we've answered that question as well, but I'll pass the floor back to Dan.
Indeed, Nick. As I said, Michel Barnier will be debriefing member states in the European Parliament this week. I have no specific press announcements to make, but stay tuned.
Thank you. Naomi, you have another question on this? You have the floor.
Yeah, if I could just ask another quick one. So this week was often referred to as the last possible moment in which a deal could be found in time for it to be ratified and put in place in time for the end of the transition period. So given that it looks like there's not going to be a deal this week, when do you think the last moment to get one is? Thank you.
Dan.
Hi, Naomi. Look, I'm not going to pick out deadlines or new dates here. As you know, intense negotiations are ongoing now here in Brussels. We're working hard for that deal, and we're working hard on getting a deal soon. We're not there yet, so a lot more work remains to be done.
Thank you. I see no further hand raised on the issue of the UK-EU negotiations, so I now open the floor to other issues. Marco.
Bonjour. I have a question on travel vouchers, because last Friday the Commission closed an infringement procedure that was open against Italy and other member states because corrected the legislation. According to the EU law, consumers must have the option to choose between the type of compensation. But the new Italian law, for example, doesn't allow this choice. Consumers are obliged to accept vouchers instead of a refund in cash. Could you tell us why these national measures are now in line with EU law? Thank you.
Thank you. A question for Christian or Stefan, actually. Stefan, sorry.
No, it's correct. It's
sorry. Yeah? Okay, Christian, go ahead. Who is it?
Sorry.
Who wants to answer?
Sorry?
Who wants to answer?
Well, I can say a couple of things on as far as the passenger rights are concerned. As far as the passenger rights, maybe I'll say a couple of things about this, and then Christian can come in. Sorry, Christian, I don't want to take over, but it's the reason why this decision has been taken is because in response to the Commission's action, Italy corrected its legislation in the area of passenger rights, and it's now in conformity with EU law, which is the reason why the Commission decided to close the ongoing infringement proceeding against the country. That's as far as passenger rights are concerned. Maybe Christian would like to add something on the more general travel issues. Thank you.
Christian, you want to add something?
Yes, we should have maybe coordinated who takes this question, but it was rather expected last week than today. Maybe just to add, yes, indeed. So the reason is because there are two different areas of legislation. It's passenger rights, and then you have package travel, where there were a number of more infringements. And actually, the Commission indeed closed a number of infringements, concretely the infringements against Czechia, Greece, France, Italy, Poland, and Portugal. This is indeed because these member states, and that includes Italy, have corrected the legislation in place. So I'm not entirely sure about the situation that you're referring to, but according to our information, also in Italy, the legal situation has been remedied in the meantime, and that's why the infringement was closed.
Marco, you have asked for the floor again on this.
Yes, follow up, because yes, it's true, Italy corrected its legislation, but with the new law, consumers still don't have the possibility to choose between voucher and cash refund, because they will receive a voucher that will have a duration of 18 months, and only at the end of this period, if the voucher is not used, they can be refunded in cash. So I'm wondering, is that in line with the EU law? I suppose, because you closed the infringement procedure. But so that means that companies to give vouchers to instead of cash.
Thank you. I remember that this was indeed a point that we discussed at some stage on the fact that if vouchers were one of the options, they had to foresee that they could be reimbursed at the end. I go back to Christian on this, but if we cannot provide you with more information now, we will come back to you more precisely on the assessment. Christian, do you want to add something?
Well, I can just confirm what Eric just said. Indeed, under the EU package travel legislation, consumers must be given a choice to accept the voucher. They don't have to accept the voucher. So if a consumer does not want to accept the voucher, the company has to pay back the money in such cases. It's not difficult for me to comment on the specific law in Italy, so there we will have to maybe double check with our experts, but the principle is very, very clear.
Thank you, Christian. So we will check the details and come back on this question. If you are interested in the answer to this, please contact Christian so that he can include you in the answers. So indeed, I see that both Oliver and David are interested. So yes, please get in touch with Christian. Okay, this closes this chapter, I believe, and we move to Odile. Odile, tu as la parole.
Oui, bonjour. Odile Harvey pour Radio Nord-Bretagne. Suite aux résultats provisoires des élections en Côte d'Ivoire, 53,9% de participation avec 23% des bureaux de vote apparemment fermés et 94,27% pour le président sortant Alassane Ouattara. L'opposition veut initier un conseil national de transition. J'ai vu la réaction du vice-président Borrell ce matin, qui appelle évidemment à l'apaisement et qui dit que l'Union européenne soutiendra tous les efforts dans ce sens qui seront demandés par les acteurs nationaux ou internationaux. Est-ce que cela veut dire que l'Union européenne est prête à répondre, à devenir médiateur si les partenaires ivoiriens concernés le lui demandent? Merci.
Merci Odile. Je passe la parole à Amina.
Oui, bonjour Odile et merci pour ta question. Je reviens encore une fois sur la déclaration de ce matin, donc suite aux résultats provisoires de l'élection présidentielle, donc où on prend note de l'annonce des résultats provisoires annoncés par la commission électorale. Et comme tu le sais très bien, nous ne pouvons pas à ce stade actuellement nous prononcer sur ces résultats annoncés puisqu'ils ne sont pas définitifs. Pour ce qui est de ta question en particulier, l'Union européenne est toujours disposée à initier ou faciliter des actions de médiation si les acteurs politiques en formulent la demande, afin que ces derniers puissent dialoguer sur les points de désaccord qui sont nombreux à subsister dans le cadre de ce processus électoral. Ce dialogue doit se faire dans le rejet de la violence et un esprit d'ouverture.
Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Nabila sur ce sujet? Patricia. Ah, je vois que tu n'as plus la main levée. Je ne vois qu'une seule main levée, donc nous passons à Patricia. Je t'en prie.
Hi, Eric. It's not on this subject. It's on the US election. So I don't know if you want to leave me apart for a moment.
I think you can go ahead because I see no further hand raised. So please go ahead, Patricia.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Patrizia Antonini with Answer Press Agency. I would like to know what the Commission expects from the day after, what you hope for the day after the US elections. Thank you.
Patricia, as you know, there is a very long-standing tradition and a completely justified one that you do not comment or provide your views on an election in another country. The President made this very clear during the press conference which took place after the VTC of leaders last Thursday, and therefore I invite you to go and see her comments on this, and I will limit myself to this statement for the moment. Thank you. Are there other questions for us today on other subjects? Cataline, hello. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Eric. I have two questions, both concern the rule of law, but there are two separate questions. The first one is about the letter Prime Minister Orban sent to the President more than a month ago, where he called Vice President Jourova to resign. I am wondering whether the President replied to this letter, and if so, whether you can share the content of her letter. Can I go on with my second question?
Perhaps let me answer this first question, because I do not have that information, and I will need to come back to you on whether an answer has been sent in the meantime or not. But as you know, the President made her position abundantly clear publicly on the fact that she supports entirely the work of Vice President Jourova. Your second question, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a question perhaps to Christian, and it is about the Lex NGO. The Hungarian NGOs applying for EU funds must declare their compliance with the so-called Lex NGO, which was ruled unlawful by the ECJ in June. Some weeks ago, we had an exchange here about the situation, and I was told that the Commission sent a letter to the Hungarian authorities and follows the situation closely. So while the Commission is following the situation closely, more and more Hungarian NGOs are cut from EU funding based on this legislation, which was deemed illegal by the European Court of Justice. So my question is what the Commission is going to do to make sure that Hungary follows the decision of the ECJ. Thank you.
Thank you, Cataline. Indeed, a question for Christian.
Yes, thank you, Cataline. I can indeed give you some new elements on this issue of the Lex NGO. Let me first reiterate our clear position that, of course, all judgments by the European Court of Justice are immediately binding on member states and need to be implemented, and member states are under the obligation to take the appropriate measures promptly. Hungary, on this case, has informed the Commission that it is committed to implementing the judgment. The Commission expects Hungary now to take concrete measures as a matter of urgency. Hungarian authorities are under the obligation to refrain from applying this law in compliance with the judgment, and at the same time to bring the law into conformity with EU law. On 29th of October, the Commission sent a second letter to Hungary, to the Hungarian authorities, to urge them to inform the Commission of the measures taken to ensure that the law is not applied, and to share also the draft modifications to the existing law and provide a clear timeline on when they would adopt the necessary legal modifications. Hungary has 1 month to reply to this letter. The Commission will not hesitate to take further measures to ensure compliance with the ECJ judgment as appropriate.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Are there other questions for Christian on this or on other rule of law issues? That does not seem to be the case. Are there other questions for us today? I do not see any hand raised, so I thank you very much for your participation, and we will see you tomorrow here in the press room at the same time. Thank you very much.